I'd like now to go to Yvonne and ask her about her departure there. She obviously had legal threats and very direct personalized attacks on her and her family. So Yvonne, can you tell us about how bad things were getting for you there, and what happened in the months and weeks leading up to your family's departure?
Yeah, well, the personalized attacks were against my husband, John, who works for the BBC. But the decision that we took to leave in March of this year was really a long time coming. It wasn't spur of the moment. It wasn't due to any specific trigger. The pressure had been building over a number of years. We've been in China for 9 years. And the pressure had been building over that time. We were experiencing what all reporters do there, the surveillance on the road, the harassment, the kind of detention in local police stations, that kind of thing. But then the pressure really began to build with these short-term visas that Chris was describing. A few years ago, John was put on a 1-month visa as well, and had to keep renewing it every few weeks. That created a huge amount of uncertainty for our family. We have 3 children, so we were all living there in Beijing. The visas would never be renewed until the 11th hour. And this is quite a purposeful tactic, it seemed to us, just to make it difficult for us. But then amid all this pressure, I think things really started to take quite a sinister turn then, with these threats of legal action, as you mentioned. Officials began to say things like, someone might sue you. And of course, when you hear that kind of thing, this is designed as a kind of veiled threat. It seems that these things are not said lightly. And then, of course, from there, it seemed to escalate. The threats of legal action would be repeated at the foreign ministry out of the mouths of officials. Then it was accompanied by this very coordinated, state-sponsored, personalized attack in state media against John personally and his reporting. And it began to feel really uncomfortable, being on the receiving end of that, trying to raise a family in Beijing. We were living, it's an authoritarian superpower. And when it decides that it's going to personalize attacks against you, it does become very uncomfortable. And so in the end, we just felt that while we could probably stick it out, we're doing our jobs, it kind of comes with the territory. We felt that it just wasn't fair to continue exposing the children to that. It didn't feel like a comfortable or a particularly safe place to be raising a family. So that's why we took the decision to leave.
And was it also affecting your work? That I would assume it's difficult to try to do day-to-day reporting under that kind of pressure.
Yeah, it was, but I think as well, when you've been in China for quite a long time, you are a bit used to having to work under pressure. I don't think that's unusual particularly. I think maybe for us it became it was difficult to calibrate towards the end. China's changed quite a lot. If you look at the kind of wider context over the past few years, something has shifted. There's a feeling that perhaps the state is beginning to act with increasing impunity against foreign citizens. Some obvious examples of that. The 2 Michaels were taken a few years ago. The situation with the Australian journalist last year, and of course, for me, this year I had just come back from interviewing an Irish businessman, Richard O'Halloran, who's been detained in Shanghai for the past 2 years, unable to leave. There's an exit ban on his passport. And it was a real reminder of the kind of, legal quagmire that you can end up being stuck in. And really, there's nothing, your own government can do. And it certainly began to feel uncomfortable. And just one thing I should say, that when the morning that we left, and it still makes me kind of angry and upset to think about, there were secret police outside our house as we were, trying to bundle the kids into taxis to get to the airport. And for me, that felt like, it's one thing to harass us, but to do that to our kids as they were already quite distressed, having to leave their home and their families and everything that was dear to them. And they tailed us all the way to the airport, followed us all through the check-in. So that kind of confirmed to us that, okay, well, this is something, quite personal, quite targeted, and that we were making the right decision to leave.